Welcome to the Backyard Wealth Podcast, where we explore how your backyard can become your next big income opportunity. Now, imagine walking in to your beautiful backyard that you have. And not only do you have a place for the children to play, a yard for you to do gardening in, but you also have something that's creating extra income for your family. Whether you're finding it hard to maintain your bills, whether you're looking for extra income, perhaps the existing home you have is just too large and you're looking for a smaller place to live, but you love your location, you love your land, you don't want to move from where you are. These ADUs, and Ali will explain what they are, but garden suites can be the next big opportunity to help you create generational wealth in real estate.
Yeah, garden suites really are not only a fantastic way of generating rental income, as Abby mentioned, but you're allowing yourself to add significant value to your property. And the best part, you can customize it in any way or shape that you like to fit your backyard.
Yeah, perfect. So who are we and why are we doing this podcast? My name's Abhishek Basin with Remax Realtron in Toronto. I'm a realtor and team car. And I met Ali, and I'll let Ali do his own introduction when we were doing our Masters of Real Estate from the Schulich School of Business. And the reason why we thought, let's do a podcast about garden suites, about laneway housing, is because we don't think that there's a clear and concise resource center out there for people who are interested in this. And what I mean by that is you see a lot of technical terms, you see a lot of legal jargons, you see architectural drawings, but nobody actually kind of explains how the mechanics behind it works. There's no easy or simple way to look at a site and say, okay, what can I do with my backyard? How cost effective is it? What kind of rental income can I earn? And is it even suitable for me and my family? Is it even worth it? And that's why me and Ali, we wanted to join forces, me bringing the information about what's happening in the market, why this statistically and financially could make sense, and Ali with the building and background on how you can actually get this done for you and your family if you're looking to generate extra income. So Ali.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So my name is Ali Salmani. I'm the VP of Operations at Atena Building Group. And so we're a full service construction company across the GTA. We do anything from residential to commercial properties. But ever since Laneways and Suites, the bylaw has been passed, we've been very much active in that space, doing both laneways and garden suites. We've been working with different designers and different architectural firms. So we have a variety of different projects that we've completed. And really, what really spurred this conversation was the fact that I myself find it very, very opportunistic. There's really never been a time in the history of Toronto's real estate market or the real estate housing in the past, let's say 30 years. I don't know, maybe in the past 6 years after the World War, there was a push, but there's never been a time in the past 30 years, at least, where the city is pushing people to create densification within their existing properties. As you remember, up until even 3, 4, 5 years ago, there's always been the same conversation of one house, one single family, one dwelling, right? Even basement apartments were considered illegal. But now you have the opportunity of adding a standalone detached garden suite or laneway suite inside your own backyard, as well as turn the main house into a multiple unit. But I think we're going to initially just start the conversation around the benefits of garden suites and laneway suites, because I feel like that's a low-hanging fruit. A lot of people are not utilizing that space in a way that's beneficial to them, both in terms of rental market, as well as you mentioned, Abby, the variety of different uses that you can have for your family, for yourself. If you're aging in place, you don't want to move to a senior home, or you don't want to move away from that neighborhood that you've been living in, and you want to find an alternative. You want to find a solution that it's literally in your backyard and it's very reachable. So,
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like in this first episode, we're going to talk about the technicalities about behind laneway housing, behind the garden suites. We're going to talk about why we feel that this is the next opportunity for whether you're a real estate investor or if you are just a homeowner and looking to create real estate wealth, why this might be the most affordable option right now. Ali's got his
Sorry
phone
about
ringing.
that.
Yeah, that's okay. This is a raw podcast. All right. There's not going to be any edits. We're just going to go straight into it.
It's the
But for
wifey
future,
calling, so
but
that's
for
why.
future episodes, Ali will make sure his phone's on vibrate. Yeah, but the subsequent episodes that we're going to have, we're going to do actual case studies. We will be showcasing Ali's actual projects where he's built, where the clients have built, how much they built for, what they rent for, and where in the city this has the most potential, where you can do it on certain lot sizes. We'll go through a gamma of why this makes sense, how this is going to make sense. The only technical conversation and all the jargon conversation is going to happen here in episode 1. And after that, it's going to be really simple and it's applicable. We'll do site visits. We'll hop onto the MLS, the multiple listing service, and we'll look at potential homes that are for sale and could you put a garden suite there and does it make sense and how the numbers would work. So it's going to be a really hands-on podcast. And with that, let's start the conversation, Ali, why you think building a garden suite is better than going and buying a duplex or a triplex right now.
Yeah, for sure. I get that question almost all the time. And there's a variety of different ways to answer that. The simplest way is the fact that if you are a normal homeowner, someone who is not a savvy, let's say, real estate investor, who's constantly in the marketplace, who has the risk parameter of going and basically looking for deals, who has the ability to basically get the financials in place and roll it over to various properties. You're looking for a simple way of making your money work for you, right? And most people, their house is probably, they would consider to be their main investment. And
Yes,
as
they're
we
generally the
know,
largest asset that they own.
their largest asset that they have. And as you know, you and I, we both know, if you're living in your house, that's not considered an investment because you're paying for a liability. Now, like obviously, we'll talk about that a little bit more. But
Yeah, you're
if
just
the
there are a
house
lot of
is
feathers for there where people are buying homes thinking that they're going to
boom, there
make
you
money.
go.
Yeah.
Your house is not an asset. Anyways, you hear that all the time. But my way of seeing why that is because it's not giving you any money. You're waiting for the market to appreciate. And most homeowners, again, if you're not a real estate investor where you say, I can make my money work for me by generating cash flow in other areas, you will need to find out how to best put your money into something that will give you immediate returns, right? So right off the bat, you have a piece of property that is being underutilized in your own space. So you're foregoing any need for an additional fee when it comes into paying land transfer tax, going into another market and trying to find something that is suitable within your budget, especially if you're in a competitive market. Right now, things are a little bit different, but overall, why it makes more sense to put the money back into your property is that it's a fixed amount that you're going to put, and you can build something within your budget. What we do is we tell our clients, what is the maximum size that you can build within your lot? We give them that information. And it's really up to them, up to their budget, up to their needs as to what it is they want to do with it. If you want to make it a rental property, then typically it makes more sense to do something that the market would absorb. But if it's for your own personal use, you might not need a full 2-story laneway or garden suite. You might just be okay with doing a 600, 400, 300 even square feet dwelling just so that it fits your lifestyle.
Yeah. So if I could summarize what you're saying, right? And to Ali's point, we see it on the marketplace. I'm looking at deals every day or opportunities, let's call them, not deals. And for the most part, 97, 98% of the time right now, even in today's market, the numbers don't work out. There is no yield. There's no return on investment that you're making. Why? Because the closing costs are so high. The cost of acquisitions are so high, right?
Yeah.
Then you have to try to predict that is this a neighborhood that's going to hold value given what's happened recently in the last 2 years, right? Because
For
let's
sure.
be honest, the fact that interest rates are going down, everyone thought market would shoot back up. That theory doesn't hold anymore, right? There's a bigger sense of what's going on in the economy that plays into real estate. And
Unless you're very patient, unless you have the capacity to be a patient investor and look at it as a core investment, something like that. But most people, that money, they need it to work for them.
yeah,
They need to generate income right away. And pretty much like another way of I say it is your investment is within your arm's reach. It's only a few feet away from where you're used to living, where you are living. You have full control over basically the logistics of things. And as a good investor always wants to be local. They don't want to have investments that are far away or they have to travel to because of maintenance issues, right? Like you already know that once you become a landlord, there's a lot of maintenance things that could occur, that could come up. So you being there and having a brand new property that's being built according to your style, your taste, but is functioning even better than the main house, because the construction, and we'll get to this, we'll get into all the details later. This house, this garden suite or laneway suite, has to be built according to the new Ontario Building Code. As well, there's additional fire safety, fire resistant material that has to be used inside that you're not going to find in most of the new, even some of the new houses, let alone some of the houses that these garden suites or accessory dwellings are being built on.
Perfect. Yeah. So to Ali's point, the cheapest way to invest in real estate right now is on your existing land. The way to generate the most return on your real estate investment right now is on your existing land. So let's talk about that, Ali. Let's talk about what type of returns are possible. Give a certain case study. We're going to go through photos and details in other episodes, but in general, talk about what you're seeing, cost of build, and the rental yield, right? And then from there, let's have a frank discussion about how you actually determine what can be built on your lot.
For sure. Look, I've been lucky to work with a lot of clients who are investors. So they're purely buying these properties and they're building it to generate cash flow. Maybe that's about 75% of my market. The other 25 to 30% is individuals who still have the intention of renting it, maybe in the long term. So they're building it according to that sort of mindset. They have a personal use for it in the immediate term. So looking at some of the stats, some of the properties that I've built, I'm not even looking at some of the other ones that have been rented. The ones that we've built, on average, I can confidently say that they're generating anywhere between 10 to 15% return on their investment. So
let's talk about that. Average cost to build. Some people hear 10%, they don't hear the numbers. Let's give them the numbers.
For sure. So the number that the most recent case, we just finished doing 1,000 square feet, 500 on each level, a 2-bedroom in Roncesvalles. So it's in the west, for those who it's in the west end of Toronto, just east of the High Park area. Fantastic neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. It's a lot of older homes, but there's a lot of reviving that's happening. It's a very nice community. Great people, great for access. 1,000 square feet. The total cost was somewhere around the mid 400s all in. And I'm saying fixed costs. This includes the planning. This includes getting the permit package. This includes doing the survey, and this included the construction cost, was around the mid 400. And right off the bat, they put it up in the market. And within, I would say, 2 weeks, these are all, the stats are there. The listing is there. Within 2 to 3 weeks, they were able to rent it for $42.50 per month.
So you're saying that they put in about, let's call it 420, 430, 430,000
after
right?
tax. Yeah.
And they are generating almost maybe just slightly over $50,000 in rental income
per year. Yes.
Per year, right?
Off of that 1,000 square feet. So that's one example.
No, it's great because in comparison, you go and buy a condo, right? Even if you go buy a 1-bedroom condo, you're only getting $2,200, $2,100, maybe even $2,000 a month because, the way the market is. You're spending $500,000 or almost the same amount to build to get a little bit less rental yield, right? So where your clients or where people can generate almost 10 to 15% from your backyard, you're generating 4 to 6% out in the real estate market if you can find something with the number where the numbers work. And this is why we wanted to talk about this. This is why we think that this is the next best opportunity for you to start building wealth in real estate, and also the most affordable. For most people who actually already own their own home, they've been there for, let's call it over 6, 7, 10 years. there's equity in there where you can leverage off of to help build these units, hire someone like Ali or other builders and developers, build these units, rent it out. Not only will that cover your cost of the interest for that line of credit or equity that you took on, but it will also put money in your pocket. And currently in Ontario, unless you're buying 6 or 7 stories and above, unless you're buying a commercial property, the residential market isn't putting cash back into your pocket. And this is what really excites us. This is why we think this is the next best opportunity. Also for the fact that this is what cities and the province want, right? They're pushing, they're incentivizing. Here, we'll have a general discussion. Ali, how long does it take to actually get the permits?
So that's a great question. It's a matter of understanding certain things. As long as your property and the build that you're proposing meets all the requirements that are prescribed in the bylaws. So the bylaws that have created a box, if your build is well within that box, then it becomes an as of right, and that process is very efficient. And we're seeing right now anywhere from 1 to maybe you give it 3 months for the city to review things, because it has to go to different departments. So the zoning department and the building department. There are cases that basically they've gone them a lot faster. There's the examiners. It really depends on what the city's load at that time is looking, if there's any backlogs or things like that. But I would say on average, give it about 1 to 3 months. Once the permit has been applied, once the package has been handed over to the city. Now, what is the package? What is the permit package that you need to have? So I want to basically lay out all of those things so that you know exactly what you need to have right off the bat. Right off the bat, the first thing you need is an updated, not an old, an updated within the past 6 months of a survey as well as a grading plan. Now, a grading plan is very specific because a lot of people say, well, let's get a survey. I have a survey. We can just get it updated. Sure. But you also need a grading plan as well. It's very specific to laneways and garden suites because they want to understand the flow and basically the variations within the land that you have for grading purposes. For
Yeah,
water
basically, they don't want water coming from the main house back into the garden suite, right? I get it. You don't want to flood the
Then
units.
you have to propose different measures, infiltration galleries and things like that, which we'll get of. I have case studies that we can share. So right off the bat, you need the survey package. That gives you the entire property line, all the details that you need, so that you can move into creating the architectural drawings. And that's everything from the floor plan to the elevation to the schematic drawings, giving you the layout of where that property, where the new dwelling is going to be positioned within your land. Every single different measurement that you can think of is proposed and created in there. And that's where you as the client are basically putting together and getting creative with what it is that you want and how you want things to look. From there, once the architectural is carried out, then we move into getting the mechanical as well as the structural engineering drawings. Now, those are, again, just very technical things that are a reflection of how that house is designed and how that house is going to function, specifically for the mechanical. You can go with a gas system, or you can go with electric system as well to heat that house and keep it cool for the HVAC system.
So that was one of the questions I was going to have is, are these individually metered, right? Do they get their own bills, right? I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about, okay, then how does the distribution of all of our utilities work?
Absolutely. Great question. And it's a very common question. So far, still to this date, the utility companies, they don't want to have separate bills because they're only looking at because the entire utility of that new addition is connected to the main house. And that's the biggest thing. It has to be connected to the main house. So utility companies are not differentiating it. You are able to get a separate meter, and I'll explain what that is. So let's say with the hydro, with your electricity, if you have a 200 amp service, or if you have a 100 amp service, which is like what most houses have, and you want to upgrade to a 200 amp, you can ask for a separate gang. And what is a gang? Again, it's when you see on the side of your house where the main line has come into the property, there's a meter, there's a round thing, a box on the side of your house that basically reads how much consumption there is. Now, you can propose to get a separate gang right beside it that will feed directly to, basically will take current from the house and then feed it to the laneway or the garden suite. And that has a separate meter. Doesn't have a separate bill, but it's still a separate meter. And you can do the same thing with water as well. Water, you can create a sub meter. So you have the main meter, and then the water that is connected to the garden suite or the laneway suite can have its own meter as well, that you can basically do it for reading. So far, I think that's not, a lot of people think about that, but the solution is, if you want to nickel and dime things, right, it's great. You should always understand where the consumption is, because there's certain things you can't control. But a lot of people, just what they do is they add it as an expense. They create an estimation of what it could be for that unit, and they either add it to the bill, right, to the rental income, or they just have to constantly monitor it. But it's not an issue. It's not a deterring effect. It's not something that deters them from doing this, just because, oh my God, we have to figure out how to create some sort of sense around this $200 to $300 to $400 maybe dollars of monthly expense that we can find a solution for.
No, naturally.
From there, Enbridge also, we have some cases where they've reached out. It's just Enbridge is a little bit slow in trying to process some sort of separate reading. It's lengthy, it takes a little bit more money. So so far, that's been predominantly the main method that we've been using, just creating sub-meters for those utility lines.
Okay, that's awesome. And, a lot of people ask us, right, when we had these discussions with investors and people is, okay, what does this do for our resale value? And what I can say is you're essentially building either a duplex or a triplex on your own existing lot. And that's how now you go from just a single family residence to being evaluated on the income that you're generating, just like a regular commercial property would. And you now appeal to first-time buyers. You now appeal to multi-generational families that want to live together. You're doing a lot of value add to your property, right? And this is why we're excited about this. And we're encouraging those who feel like, this is something that's suitable for them right now to look at this option. Because as a real estate investment, this is what makes sense right now for the average or new real estate investor. But, Ali, a lot of people ask us 1 to 3 months to get permits. How long is the build? How tough is the build? Is it built off-site? You come drop it into the backyard. We get all these types of questions, right? So let's have a chat about that.
For sure. Look, logistics is the biggest factor, right? Getting access to the site, because at the end of the day, you're doing heavy construction within that space. There's digging that you have to do. There's trenching that you have to do. You have to create the foundation for it, whether it's a port or you have to form. So there's various machinery that needs to be used, various labor components that need to go into it. And then from there, logistics of material delivery, right? Getting the lumber inside that space, getting the finishing material inside that space. So the more limited, the more restricting the property is, the more creative we have to get. We have to find creative solutions. We have to find maybe there might be a little bit of a delay or timeline that gets increased because you might not be able to get the type of machinery that you had hoped for, and then you have to resort to manual labor. So obviously there's certain things that happen within that. And that's where that initial assessment always comes in. It's not a blanket. It takes 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. It's very, very site specific. And it's something that we can come up with right away once we do a site visit, once we understand how to plan for that. And we've been fortunate enough to do projects in all different sizes and all different capacities across the city, whether it's a very tight entrance, whether it's one entry point, whether it's multiple entry points. So we've gone through it and we have a very good sense and knowledge about how to maneuver that thing. And if you're working with an experienced builder, then that's the first thing they're going to look at. Everything else basically gets pointed from that. Everything, the basis is logistics and on average, I would say give yourself a solid, if you have easy access, everything is perfect, right? You can bring in the machinery, you have a wide entry, logistics is not an issue. We can put the concrete pump there, things like that. depending on the size, anywhere from 4 to 8 months is a typical build. Sometimes that could go a little bit more, 8 to 12 months, depending on various things. But the number that I always like to say to people is give yourself 3 to 6 months for the permit and planning to be realistic. Again, I like to add a lot of contingency. I like to add more time.
It's about managing expectations, right? That's
It
what we
doesn't
do.
have to be 3 months for you to get the permit drawings. A lot of that depends on the back and forth, depends on the experience of the team that you're working with. We can get things done in 2 to 3 weeks very quickly, assuming that everything's been decided on. So give yourself 3 to 6 months for the planning and getting the permit in hand, and give yourself 6 to 12 months, depending on your lot, depending on how things are. So on average, 12 to 16 month process, right?
And so like Ali mentioned, the initial assessment is very important. Even from like a package perspective between me and him, Ali does this site assessment, right? And he can tell you exactly how long the build will take. And at the same time, you don't want to underbuild for the area. You don't want to overbuild for the area, right? So we'll go through market stats. We'll go through the analysis to say what's the highest and best use, what kind of rental income can we generate, what type of finishes are required. Every neighborhood in the city will have different expectations on their rental units. And it's like any other housing, right? And what I want to preface here is that this isn't just like a downtown product. This is not just made for the urban core centers. This is all across the city, whether you're in Scarborough, whether you're in Etobicoke, whether you're downtown, you have the possibility of generating income from your backyard. And that's the goal. And that's our mission of this podcast, right? Is to now showcase going forward all the different options that you have. If we're going to show you different lot sizes, so maybe you find that a little bit relatable. And Ali's going to walk you step by step as to how that process would look like, what it would entail. And we're hoping you guys get a lot of value for it. So
For sure.
I wanted to apologize, first of all. I've got this big window in front of me and the sun keeps moving, so there's a shadow on my face. Yeah, but before we end this off, Ali, do you have anything else that you want to say?
I want to continue from your point, and I like to say controversial things, but a lot of it is backed with numbers. Before, in the city and across different areas, right, it would make sense for you to do infill development. So you would tear your existing house down, you would do an addition, and you would basically go through a process of creating a custom house. A lot of people did that. They would, us included as well. Like that was one of our main lines was building custom houses across different markets that made sense, just so that we can generate basically good income from the upside.
Mm-hmm.
That game has changed across the city, right? The idea of you going through that process, that timeline, and then exiting doesn't always make sense anymore with the prices that have gone up. The prices have gone up, cost of construction has gone up. So the game of custom house has now turned into staying within your property, holding your asset, adding more structures, adding more density within that space, and then becoming a landlord. And again, this isn't for everybody. Not everybody that we're going to be is watching this has the capacity or the interest of building. What we're doing, what we're hoping to achieve is those who have an interest or those who don't even know about it get the necessary information they need just so that they are educated, they can make their own assumptions, and they can evaluate what the next step and how that next step could turn out. And then obviously we're here to help them. We're here to, you can always get in touch with us directly, and we will assist you any way that we can.
Yeah, so just exactly like Ali said, and as you can tell, me and Ali love to talk. We talk a lot, but our intention is to keep this simple, is to pass on knowledge and education and what's happening out there so you can make the best decision that's for you. It'll never be a sales pitch. It will always be a place of value and education. I'm looking forward to episode 2. All our links, in case you do actually want to reach out to us and find out if your site makes sense, if this is what your process will be, what it looks like, what the numbers look like. All our links will always be on the bottom of our videos. You can connect with us at any time. But we will do our intention to make this a weekly thing to help you generate wealth from your backyard. Anything else, Ali? or
No,
till
we're
next
very
week?
excited about this. We're very excited about this. I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of exciting things that could come from basically this. And again, our intention is to inform and educate. That's what we're thinking. That's what we're seeing is missing across the entire market. There's a lot of people that still don't know about this, right?
Yeah.
And we believe it's our duty. We have to be the ones who carry the message over, who provide that information, just so that just so that our neighbors know what it is that they can do. We over the past few years, everyone's been through so much financial stress, so much psychological stress. A lot of people are not thinking properly. They're not thinking clearly, right? Because again, the conditions, the economy has been very tough. What we want to do is shine some light, just like that light that's on Abby's face, and point basically in somewhere that we believe has benefit. There's nothing else to gain other than benefit for the party that's going through this process. But we want them to know, to be informed, so that they make a calculated step. They take a calculated step towards building more wealth for themselves and for their families. And obviously for the economy. You're building wealth for the economy. You're hiring people. You're keeping the flow of things moving. And you're taking a risk that will pay off and is paying off based on what the market is seeing and what the market will look like in the future.
So let's do this. Let's show how easy it is. Let's show why it makes sense next week by doing actual case studies. All right, we'll put things up on the screen. We'll show photos. We'll show numbers. We'll make it as educational as possible. So next week's episode, let's show a case study and why it is so simple and why we're so excited about this.
I tell people all the time, it's as simple as you providing us with your property address. That's it.
Awesome. All right. Well, if that's what you guys like to do, contact one of us, give us your property address. We'll let you know what's possible. And until next week, thank you for joining us on Backyard Wealth. We're actually excited about this. I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. Let's do this.